welcome to the Hines Athletic Center. We have a dual meet today between Baylor University Bears versus the Iona Gales. I'm Shelby Armstrong, and I'm here with Cassidy Osher, and we will be your commentators today. So let's talk about this meet and this matchup. So Iona's in their third year, Baylor's in their 9th year. This is Iona's third meet, I believe, and their third meet in a row at home as well. They have currently an undefeated season. This is Baylor's 6th meet, also running on an undefeated season, but tries the experience for this 2026 year. So what do you think is going to happen today?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good meet. We see two very strong programs, and it's actually very interesting that Coach Jackie Eshelman was an athlete of Coach Felicia Mulkey.
Yes, so
they've been competing against each other.
Yeah, so she started as an athlete with Felicia at Kennesaw State for cheerleading, actually, and then when Felicia left to go to the University of Oregon for the inception of acrobatics and tumbling, it was called stunts and gymnastics at the time, Jackie was one of the athletes that transferred with her. So Jackie's built a few programs. Fee's been at 2 schools, starting at Oregon and now at Baylor over the last 10 years, I think. So really surreal to be able to play against your former coach, someone that you have so much respect for. It's really cool. We're heading into our first event of compulsory, so we have 4 heats here. Everything is synchronized, starting with the compulsory acro. So what the officials are looking for is synchronization between both groups, stability, steps, body checks, and height of these skills. So many deductions going into these skills. They're definitely happy with that performance. What's the best part about the compulsories is that both teams are doing the same exact skills. So it's apples to apples. It's truly who is going to compete these skills the strongest and the cleanest.
Yeah, and actually the compulsory events are one of my favorites because you do see both teams performing the same skills. And the officials are really just looking for that stability, the strength, the execution from both tops and bases. And as we just watched from the Baylor Bears, all of their bases had no movement underneath, which we're really looking for, as well as the tops being very tight up in the air.
Absolutely. It's funny, compulsory acro has come such a long way from the beginning of the sport. I'm not sure what it was before I started, but when I went to school in 2012, we were doing a rewind up to like a heel stretch. We did a double down. It was a little bit more like cheerleading mixed with acrobatics than it is now. Now we still have some of those basic skills, but really the compulsories are the foundation of all of the skills you'll see in those optional events, but also just a tribute to how much the sport changes. Every 3 to 5 years, just the elevation of the skills is really exciting.
So now we have the Iona Gales performing their compulsory acro. So you saw a little movement on the right group in the inverted handstand, but overall, very strong event. Everything was very synchronized. Everything was on time.
It was, and honestly, I love the black uniforms. I think when a team wears a black uniform, they automatically just look cleaner in everything that they do.
And it's honestly intimidating a
It
little
is.
bit.
It is really intimidating. I definitely think Iona is going to give Baylor a run for their money because also let's remember, I don't know that Baylor has lost a meet in like 9 years. Not one, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me, but I want to say I watched Oregon beat them the year after I graduated college, and I want to say that's the last time that they lost a meet. So we're looking at a team that is so used to winning, and now a team that is going to be neck and neck with them with star values and skills as well.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see because Iona really is. This is their third year.
Yes.
This is their third year as a program, and they have come such a far way since their first year here. Trying to build up the rosters and the recruiting, and now they have a full team with very strong athletes.
Yeah, I mean, even their first year, they did send a pyramid heat, I believe, to nationals for event finals.
Yep.
And then their second year, they sent the entire team for the team championships. They were one of those top 8 teams. That is not heard of for, first-year programs, at least till like year 4 or 5.
That has never happened in our sport before. It's great to see it, our sport evolving.
So we've got our compulsory pyramid heat. So what the officials are looking for, we can start from the very end of the pyramid, those catches, all the way through to those catches until those tops feet are on the ground and the group has clean. The officials are looking for all those tiny deductions, body checks, if the feet drop below the hips, if the shoulders are dropped backwards when they catch. So all those little things when you think, maybe in cheerleading or, something else that, oh, they did this skill. And that's fine. It's so much more technical here, which makes all of our meets really exciting because you could look at, a naked eye could look at 2 groups and be like, that they looked exactly the same, and the officials can find those deductions where they need to.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, Shelby, but even looking at those primary bases, that is not an easy skill to hold.
No.
You have a mid on top of you and a flyer on top of that mid.
Those both looked pretty good. I will say, I feel like in both teams, the right side, the catches both had a tiny little kind of drop, little check when they caught. Very small, but something the officials are definitely going to catch. I think these scores in these first 2 heats are going to be pretty close.
Yeah, and especially with the compulsory events, since both teams are going out there and throwing the same skill, those officials are really looking at all of those little things. Movement in the bases, in the catches, movement with the tops going up in that first half of the pyramid.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So we're headed into the 3rd heat of compulsories. This is the compulsory toss. So while you think you're just looking at a backflip being thrown into the air, we actually have different terminology for that. We've got a 450 salto happening. And what is also different from this flip than just your regular back tuck basket is you want to see the athletes completely extend before they come around and land in the race's arms. So in order to achieve that, you have to have the height. And that starts from the bottom as well. Those bases have to follow all the way through with their throws. The tops have to reach all the way up until they're weightless before they can pull those feet over. So if that doesn't happen, you never hit that correct position, and that's a direction you'll get to.
Yeah, so the officials really do look at both bases and tops for this, looking at the bases to see their arm, making sure they have that height going throughout the whole skill.
You can see that extension I'm talking about before they caught them, and you saw their entire front half. Interesting, you said they're looking at the bases and the top. So we actually have an official. One official looks at the bases, and one official looks at the tops. And then you have the head official that just kind of pays attention to any violations, even violations through everything. And then that head official really comes in the team event, and also making sure all the scores are accurate. So you've got a 3 official panel. Looking at everything. So if you think you're going to get away with something, you're typically not going to.
I think it's also very fascinating to look at how a lot of these different programs choose how they want to start a skill. So that's not really a rule in this sport, but you kind of see the Baylor Bears, the way they start their tosses with their arms down, and then you see some programs with their arms to the side and their arms up. So it's very interesting and very...
When I started acro, we did tosses like in cheerleading. Yep, my first 2 years. We've got Ty Upton over here on the left side. She is one of Iona's All-Americans. She was coached by Jackie Gannon, and then I believe she graduated and used her grad years, or she had a 5th year maybe, to come to Iona and compete for her and help start that first program. This is finally her last year competing, so she's almost done. But I've been seeing her for years. She had some extra time in there that she was able to use, which is really exciting.
So now we're going into the compulsory tumbling event. So this is the last heat of the compulsory. And what you're going to see here is standing and running tumbling. And what the officials really are looking for is that execution, that technique from the 8 student athletes on the mat. They will be performing a standing back tuck, handspring back tuck, and a toe touch back tuck for standing tumbling. And we're really just looking for those landings, no movement in the landings, beautiful technique, and then finishing with a running round-off handspring layout, which is pretty difficult to control all of that power in those landings.
Well, you think these are basic skills. When you have 8 people who need to look exactly alike, that's where the challenge comes. So when you look at these skills, every time an athlete takes a step, every time an athlete bobbles, every time an athlete is off count, every time they bend a knee, bend an arm, that's a deduction, and that's a deduction per occurrence. So, if that athlete takes 4 steps, and that's a lot of points that can add up. And then you have multiple athletes. So I'd say compulsory tumbling is one of the heats that's really hard to score high in. When you see someone in the low 9s, even high 8s, it's still like, that's impressive.
It's a very high score for it.
We'll go home with that. So it's pretty hard to get all 8 people to look alike and to perfectly complete those skills.
I think overall that was a strong heat. We did see a lot of steps and hops going into the standing and running tumbling. But again, it's a really hard heat to score high in, and every athlete just has to be synchronized. They have to look the exact same. They have to be on perfect timing. And those landings are really hard to control, especially when you have all of that power and you're working so many harder skills in all of your other heats.
Next to the compulsory tumbling will be Iona.
So we have the Iona Gales now performing their compulsory tumbling. Again, we're looking for technique, execution, and synchronization. So we definitely did see a few hops, a few steps in the standing tumbling, but I think overall synchronization looked great. They really went out there and they did a great job with that heat.
Absolutely, I agree. I feel like we're hopefully going to be happy with those scores in compulsory tumbling. I think both teams look very similar.
Yeah, I think these scores are definitely going to come in close. But we are just starting off with the compulsory event, and next up is the acro.
Yeah, acro is where we really get to see each of the team's individuality and their skills and their strength. It's the first event of our optional events. So you're going to see the first heat of the acro event. The requirement is to have 5 elements, and you will not see more than 5 athletes on the floor in those groups, not counting the counters that they might send out there. So a lot of times you'll see maybe only 2 people for those one-to-one connections doing 5 different elements with a start value that can go all the way up to 10.0. Your second heat is going to be your synchronized heat. The second heat of all of your optional events will always be a synchronized heat. And then you have to have 6 elements as well. So now you have to have 2 groups competing 6 elements with no more than 5 people in each of those groups. So you can have a max of 10 people on the floor doing these skills. And then the final heat is a 7 element. So same thing, no more than 5 athletes. But now they have to do 7 elements, but they still get the same 45 seconds in each of those heats to complete those skills. So going overtime is a deduction. So making sure that you can touch the ground, honestly, as little as possible in between those connections. Keeping the athlete in the top in the air the whole time is going to help that time to stay low. But you still have to make sure that you're holding for 3 seconds in each of those skills. So a lot to kind of think about. Most of it's on the coaches, but when the athletes have been there a few years, they know and understand what's going on and how to be successful in those heats.
Yeah, and I think this is really where the fun begins, in my personal opinion, because you'll see both programs, they are not going to be doing the exact same skills. The coaches create those elements for those student athletes. And right now we're looking at both Baylor and Iona scoring 10.0s as a start value.
Baylor 9.8, Iona 9.7, and the 12th seed, Baylor 9.85. Iona 9.65, and the single league, Baylor 8.95, Iona 8.4.
So those scores came in very close.
Baylor 38.3, Iona 37.25.
So right now we're at Iona with the 37.25 and Baylor with the 38.3. So very, very close for the first event.
Yeah, they're just over a point away.
Very impressive heat from the Baylor Bears, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them compete this on a live stream or social media a few days ago, and what?
That is not easy, and especially when they don't start counting the 3 seconds until that base's toe comes off the ground in that handstand. And it's very impressive. You see the stability between the top the whole time she's moving underneath of her. Not an easy thing to do, but they seem very pleased with it.
It's not, and I definitely, I'm assuming we have two athletes right there from an acrobatic gymnastics background, because nobody else would probably have that strength to be able to hold a handstand, to lift one leg and then put an athlete on your other foot in a straddle. And then for that athlete to hold that straddle for however long they just did on the feet is really, really impressive. Not something that we see across a lot of programs. But Baylor does a lot of, yes, but Baylor does a lot of things first, and then other programs end up working those skills, and then you see other programs doing those harder skills, even your smaller schools and your newer schools. So over time, I think they're gonna elevate the skills.
And that's really something Baylor is known for. They do come up with all of these unique skills that they go out for the first time to compete. So definitely keep an eye out for that for the rest of the meet. A strong 5-element from the Iona Gales. And actually we have number 3, Annabella Cece, and number 40, Paige Delman, both coming off injuries and working together in this 5-element acro. And that looked very strong on both of their parts. You see the stability, the execution coming from both of them. I saw a little movement in the handstand, but overall very strong.
Yes. So next we have the Heat 2 of the Acro event, which is the 6 elements. So we'll have 2 groups from each team go out, and they have to complete the same skills. And the same deductions are going to apply that did in that compulsory event. So the synchronization of both of the groups, and then all the other things that come with each of the skills themselves.
And again, we're both looking at both Iona and Baylor Bears. Their start values are both out of 10, so that's something you also look at when the officials are scoring these elements.
Really clean, great synchronization. And what's interesting about the skills in the 6 element or just any acro event, you have a dismount in the middle of the heat, so in between some of the elements, but it's not your very last skill, you have to count that dismount as a skill. You have to declare it. So that factors into your sixth element. So when you saw them do that walk in and then they just popped off, so that last skill may have seemed a little underwhelming, it's because they didn't have to count it. It was the last skill and they'd already hit 6 by hitting that walk in. So sometimes, you know, I know people be watching and say that was more than 6 skills. The dismount doesn't count unless it happens in the middle of the heat.
And it's a fun fact because the sixth element actually never used to be synchronized.
No.
You never had 2 groups in that. So it's great to see how the sport, again, is evolving. And you have 2 groups for the sixth element, and you have to complete that in 45 seconds.
Yep.
So you could see, for those of you just tuning in, you do have 45 seconds for each of these acro events. So to squeeze in all of these skills and elements, it's very impressive to see. That was very synchronized. Watching that and watching both tops the whole time just be identical. And it's really funny because you actually noticed one of the tops looking over to make sure she was synced up with the other one.
Yeah.
So again, that's what the officials are looking for. Everything has to be synced up and timed properly.
That was really good, very clean. The scores are going to be close in the acro event, I believe. Up next, we have the 7 elements. So we'll start with Baylor. It's one group now, back to one group, 7 different elements. And of course, you know, having those start values all the way up to a 10. So the idea of having that higher start value, of course, increases your overall start value, but it's a higher number to take deductions from. So, you know, if you'll see some newer teams who might choose a cleaner, safer route, especially in the beginning of the season, where you'll see some lower start values because they're kind of building up that strength and that cleanliness to go through their season. Because sometimes it's not worth it to have the high start values and get a ton of deductions, and then you end up with a lower score. So you'll see some teams do that, but I definitely think both teams here are pushing the envelope, and they're going all out with their start values and what they're able to put out on the mat.
And that's also another interesting thing, Shelby, is you can't just throw in the hardest of the hardest skills. You have to be able to perform them and execute them all pretty much the same. So sometimes you'll see programs actually taking a step back and doing a start value of like a 9.9.
That was a good save.
Very good save.
You saw her kind of lose that shrug a little bit for a second and come right back into it. And what's very important too in these handstand skills in these acro events is if the first thing they don't do is shrug the shoulders and get the hips over the shoulders before hitting that top position, you know, to their height, it's going to be hard to keep it sturdy and balanced.
And you'll honestly see that in these hand-in-hands that both programs are competing, it is very hard to save a skill like that. Like, you are on top of your base. She has you just by the hands, and if your elbows bend, you have now to control your toes, your knees, all of that movement that's kind of moving over you and over your head. You have to push back to get right on top of your shoulders. So again, another great save by the Baylor Bears.
And you have to think too, if anybody has a quick and kind of immediate reaction to something falling, it's typically always going to fall. So, you always have to make sure the athletes are like slow, controlled corrections. Just bring it back to center.
And now finishing up the last acro heat is the Iona Gales. Great job by the Iona Gales, but again, we're going to see a little bit of a deduction from her elbows bending and the lack of control coming into it.
Yeah, it's that deduction is typically I think they call it a lack of continuity when they're going up for that extended overhead position, and her elbows kind of take a second before extending all the way up. When I was coaching, we would see that all the time and work so hard to fix it.
But we did see that from both teams. So again, I think these scores are going to come back very close.
Key things the officials will be looking for are a hold by the top for 3 seconds following the injury, stability of the structure, and a smooth dismount that ends with either a catch or landing.
So that was actually all we have for the acro events. And now we're going on to the pyramid. So Shelby, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're looking for in the pyramid?
Yeah, so in the first pyramid, the first heat, it's one group that goes out, and the requirement is to have an inverted skill. So that can be a handstand, which is mostly what we're probably going to see here today. It can be some type of inverted situation, which you'll see different variations of that across the sport and levels. Your second heat has to be a synchronized heat. It can be anything. It can't be the same exact pyramid you did for heat 1, but it can be, it's a synchronized heat. And then you have the third heat, which is just your open heat. It can be anything you want it to be, but of course you can't do the same pyramid across the board. So there is no longer a repetition rule for athletes, I believe, in the pyramid event. So you could have the same top in every single heat, the same mid in every single heat. Used to, if you were going to be in 2 heats, only 2 athletes could cross, and they had to include the second heat. So it could be heat 1 and 2 or heat 2 and 3. Now there is not a crossover limit for the pyramid heat, but there is for acro, and there is for tosses. There is for tumbling as well. So
The scores are in for the acro events. In the 5-element heat, Baylor posts a 9.95, Iona 9.7. In the 6-element heat, Baylor 9.8, Iona 9.45. In the 7-element heat, Baylor 9.8, Iona 9.65. Our head totals at the end of acro, 29.55 for Baylor, 28.8 for Iona. Our knee totals, Baylor 67.85, Iona 66.05.
all right, we've got some scores for you guys for the acro event. For the 5-element, Baylor with a 9.95, Iona with a 9.7. 6-element, Baylor with a 9.8, Iona with a 9.45. And 7-element, Baylor with a 9.8, and Iona with a 9.65. Bringing your acro totals 29.55 for Baylor, 28.8 for Iona, as we head into our third event, pyramids. That was pretty cool. A really interesting way to get up there.
I was just going to say the way she climbs on her thigh and then going into a basket, and the way those bases threw her up, that's a lot of power going up there into that hand in hand.
Yep.
A lot of control really coming from the top and having to control all that momentum.
Yes. And then she goes up there and crosses the feet. So I think in our scoring system, that's what it's called, like the yogi pose. So they go up and cross their feet. You actually do have to declare that when you're competing. You have to declare that that's the position you're holding. Unless they changed it this year, you just have to declare that. A lot of new skills coming out in these last couple of years that we didn't see over time before. And we do have a submission period in our sport, so if a team comes up with a new skill, they have to submit it to the scoring committee, and they have to accept it with the start value that the team expects it to be.
Yeah, and it's really exciting to see our sport evolving all the time with the new skills. There's no exemption. They seem very, very happy with
That
that.
was really clean, really sturdy, and you'll see they have a few more people out there on the floor than you might see from Baylor for the same heat. So those people in the back are actually considered spotters, and you do not have to claim them as part of the roster in that heat, but you are able to list them as spotters, people who are spotting kind of the notes of it. So you're able to have those extra people out there first for safety in case the pyramid, hopefully not ever, but were to go the other way, she has people that are able to catch her in the back.
Yeah, and those three catchers in the front catching as she's coming over, you actually cannot be right in front of those primary bases. You see how they start a little bit outside of the group and they walk in after, because the officials really need to look at those primary bases, their movement underneath of that.
We have Baylor up first with our second heat of pyramids, the synchronized heat.
You see a lot more people on the mat for this one. I didn't see any movement on both bases and tops. That was a very strong heat from the Baylor Bears.
Imagine how much repetition they get in practice to be able to come out here and do it like they've been doing it their whole lives. And that's across the sport too. That's every team. Like I was coaching, we're doing some practices, we're focusing on one event for 3 hours, so that when we go out on the mat, we've gotten so many reps in that it's just muscle memory at that point.
Absolutely, and you'll see too with future meets and even today, a lot of these teams, they will actually put these skills in their team routine. So for the purpose of not having to work on a lot of other skills, they're trying to use what they can, all the skills that they've been perfecting throughout the year, and they're putting that in their team event. So they're already warmed up and ready to go before team event even comes around.
Next place, North Carolina, 10.0, Iona.
Again, a lot of athletes on the mat for this one.
just see the same pyramid.
We did just see the same pyramid. And I do have to say, both programs look very strong in
Yeah,
that.
they were very strong. I love that.
And you really notice too, when those tops, when they throw them off after the pyramid is done, the strength that has to come with that, trusting those catchers to grab you from the top and bring you down to the floor without rolling an ankle, not an easy thing to do.
I remember in acro the first time I sprained my ankle, it was falling out of a pyramid.
It's
At
always the
top,
little things.
It was falling out of a pyramid, and so forever I was like, do not catch me. I will find the ground, I will roll out of it. Do not catch me. I sprained my ankle on people's feet trying to catch me every time.
I know, I was always the same way, even in the acro heats, when you're and the catches to complete these skills.
Absolutely. So we're heading into our final heat of the pyramids. This is our open heat. It's going to be one group. Directly after Iona's pyramid, we will go into halftime, and we will not come back with those scores until there's 3 minutes left in that halftime break. So we have a lot of time to wonder who's going to score best in the synchronized heat.
Another impressive pyramid. So again, what we're really looking at, and what the officials will be looking at, is from that straddle hold, the way that top presses up into that handstand, they're looking for the continuity. So if that flyer doesn't go straight up into that handstand and she stops a little bit, they will get deducted for that. But that was great.
Yeah, very good, very impressive. So we've got a spread right now of just over 1 point for Iona to Baylor. Pretty close going into halftime. That was pretty good. And what's interesting too about these pyramids is the pyramid they did and the pyramid Baylor did are both a 10. There's a lot more going on in the Baylor pyramid, a few more skills. So, you know, you can see that just because that pyramid didn't maybe take as long, they're both still 10.0 start values. So you have to play to the strengths of your program when you're going to get those same start values anyways.
Absolutely. And when you look at those pyramids like that, those back bend pyramids are very difficult to complete.
I never had to do that in school.
Thank God.
We did not do them. And when I was coaching, I tried to actually help one of my athletes figure out what was happening. I tried to stand on one, fell immediately. I don't know how they do it.
It's hard. It takes a lot of shoulder strength and flexibility because the officials are looking at that bottom primary base as well.
Yep.
So if they're moving while that mid and top are on top of them, even the leg movement, the arm movement, all of that gets deducted.
Yeah. So we're headed into a 15-minute halftime. We will come back to you when there's 3 minutes left on the clock, so in about 12 minutes with some pyramid scores. And then we'll head into the toss event. Really exciting to look forward to in the toss event. We have a team here that is debuting a toss, has never been competed before in the sport of acrobatics and tumbling or cheerleading or acrobatics. So they created a toss this summer, submitted it, got it approved, and they will be the first team to compete it. So come back in and check out that.
This is a start value of a 9-9. So again, that was a start value of a 9.9, and then we have Iona coming with a start value of a 10.00.
Right. I think that's the only of the optional heats before we get to. Yeah, that's the only of the optional heats, actually, and the compulsories that Baylor did not have a 10 in their heat. So, again, sometimes, it's easier to play it safe for me and to grab as many scores as you can.
Yeah, from a coach's perspective, too, you're really looking at all your athletes throughout the whole year. So you're not just going, putting your best athletes out there every meet. You're looking at all these different athletes that could go out there, and we still have the national championship coming up in April. So kind of looking at what players are your best players that you're going to throw out there. So little movement on that catch from, I would say, one of the bases. But overall, again, Teresa Jennings, number 6, a junior on Iona Gales, she is actually becoming a very big toss top for them. You'll see her in the next event as well, the synchronized heat.
She is. I want to say that toss didn't get as much height as I had hoped, so you see her really swing those legs through at the last moment to try to get to that laid out position at the end.
And I think that's why we also saw a little movement from the back spot. Again, coming into that toss, all that momentum had to be a little bit rushed. So she did have to take that one step out. Again, that will be a little bit of a deduction, but overall, I think that was a great toss.
Yes. Now we're heading into the second heat of tosses. We got a synchronized heat. We have a 10.0 start value from Baylor, so we're going to see 2 groups go out there and do the same exact thing.
And again, just like our other synchronized events that we've seen already, we're looking at bases, back spots, and tops and catchers to really look the same on both groups from beginning to end. So that top is executing a very difficult skill. We're looking for the bases to be fully extended underneath, or the officials will get them for lack of height, lack of continuity. So it is very big for both the bases and the tops to really execute it. Great synchronized toss by the Baylor Bears. I believe that those were both kick doubles, scored 10.0 start values.
Yes.
You see that little bit of a kick in the beginning.
So the reason that you might see the groups facing either the side or the diagonal as opposed to the front is that if you declare a kick or a split or an open or a pike open, tuck open in any of your tosses, you have to face either the sides or the diagonal so that the officials can see the angle and see that skill actually being executed as opposed to facing the front. You can't always tell how large the kick or the split was, if it hit the right degrees it's supposed to, or to see that tuck or pike open. So that's why you'll see some of these tosses face the side and some of them face the front.
And that really is up to the coaches, what they want to do, how they feel like they're going to better execute it, if they want it on that diagonal or the side.
Next with start value of 10.0, Iona.
Those were some kicks.
So you'll see that they definitely kicked a little bit more, I think, than the Bears.
Yes.
I did see a little lack of synchronization coming out of it, going into the catches. So that's something the officials are definitely going to be looking at. But those kicks were beautiful.
I think our left side was just a little bit higher, creating that lack of synchronization towards the end.
And you notice in this heat, they decided to face the side. So you're really able to see those kicks from the front
And
angle
you're
of it.
also able to see if a top throws their shoulders back when they take off. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You've got to face the side so the officials can see everything, and then you face the side so the officials can see everything.
Yes, and again, we're looking at those bases as well. So yes, those tops execute a very hard skill, but when the bases throw these tops in the air, we're looking at how far their arms are going up, how much they're throwing them and giving them the height, and then coming into that catch, we're looking at that back spot, and we could be looking at her shoulders, the base's shoulders, so we're really looking at it all around.
All right, our final heat end tosses.
Beautiful kick double executed by the Bears.
That was
The height,
awesome.
the kick, the technique coming out
And
of
they're
it.
obviously happy with that in the sideline. I love seeing the energy on a sideline. You can tell when something went right.
And when you're in the second half like this, you've already been here
Oh,
for about an hour, like more than
Yep.
an hour. So it is very difficult coming from being an athlete in this sport to keep up that energy.
Yes.
You have to pump up your teammates. You have to keep it going throughout the whole meet, or you really feel it internally and kind of externally too.
Yeah. So up next, I think we have our toss that hasn't been competed before from Iona. They have
The Arabian Pike Open Split 540. And again, this is the first program to do this skill. They created it this past summer, and they're really looking to just elevate the sport. And I think it's really great to see all these new skills coming to life from the Baylor Bears, from Iona Gales. So let's see what this looks like.
And of course, we've got Ty Upton here as our top.
All-American.
That was cool. I don't even care that that catch was a little bit, she had a little bit of power in those shoulders, maybe a little bit of a chest back when she took off, but that was so impressive. And it's still a 10.0 star value, right? So it's still the same star value as Baylor's toss as well, but they get to do something different and exciting, which is something Baylor's known for as well. So that was really cool. That was really cool to see.
And again, we have a few more meets up until the national championship. So I am sure they're going to work on that night and day and make sure that is properly caught and executed for the national championships. But I'm so impressed. That was honestly such a new and fun skill to see.
Officials will be looking for synchronization of both feet, as well as the continuity of skills and acceleration of the pass, power of body position starting skills, and a body position and control of the landing.
So that actually completes our toss event for
Yes.
today's meet. And again, that's one of my favorites. I love the second half. You really see the fun start to come to life, especially going into this tumbling event now.
The tumbling event is 6 heats, all right? So if you can score a 10.0 in every heat, that's 60 points that you can grab, given that you have those 10.0 start values. So this is really where you see teams start to create a larger spread after the tumbling heat because of how much weight it holds across the meet. So you might have a team that's a really strong acro team, pyramid team, toss team, and then a strong tumbling team. It's really hard to keep their neck above water after the tumbling event if they don't have those skills too. So luckily, we've got two teams right here that are strong in both of those areas. So it's going to be a really close, really fun event.
And you actually notice here, so in the duo, trio, and quad, which are considered the synchronization heats of the tumbling event, there are going to be all different athletes in these events. So we're not going to have the same person in the duo compete in the trio or the quad.
9.3. And the synchronized heat, Baylor 9.4, Iona 9.1. In the open heat, Baylor 9.9. Iona 9.3. Our head totals 28.9 for Baylor, 27.7 for Iona. Our meet total, Baylor 126.60, Iona 123.25.
All right, we've had some scores for you for the toss event. Baylor, heat 1 with a 9.6, Iona with a 9.3. Heat 2, Baylor with a 9.4, Iona with a 9.1. And Heat 3, Baylor with a 9.9, Iona with a 9.3. Your running totals are 126.6 for Baylor, 123.25 for Iona. And we're heading into the first heat of tumbling, the duo heat. Pretty good synchronization. I feel like there was one skill they maybe got a little off, and then they got right back on.
Yeah, a little bit at the end, I would say, but again, beautifully executed. They seem very, very pleased with that. Those, I want to say, are their top tumblers of the program.
Yes.
So we'll be seeing them later in the individual heats.
And let's not forget to mention, for anybody watching out there who you're still new to this sport, there are no springs under that floor. So you have athletes coming from competitive cheerleading where there are springs. They come from gymnastics where there's springs and they have no shoes on. And it's a much bouncier floor than cheerleading. And we ask them to come to this sport and put shoes on their feet and do all the same skills, even more skills, on a floor without springs on it. So the training in the fall is so, so important that they break those skills down, retrain the shapes to prevent injuries, but also to generate the power because you don't have the springs bouncing back for you. So these skills you're seeing are skills these athletes can do on the spring floor and probably where they learned them. And then they have to transfer them to something that does not bounce back.
Yeah, and I think the most impressive thing that we are seeing, especially years past, is there isn't really a sport for this outside of college. Now they're growing little other programs for it, youth programs, all of that. But before that, a lot of these athletes were recruited just from cheerleading, gymnastics, weightlifting, all of that. So they're coming into this sport and they have to learn a whole brand new sport their freshman year, and they grow as they compete.
We've got a duo pass for Iona.
Very impressive.
That was good. That was good.
I think we had a little bit synchronization in the beginning, but overall, that landing and that power, that is not an easy pass to compete.
No. So we've got a little bit of start value differences in the tumbling. So for the duo, both teams are at a 10, but in the trio, we've got a 9.75 for Iona and a 10 for Baylor. In the quad, we've got an 8.75 for Iona and a 10 for Baylor. So it's going to be to the cleanliness. You know, Iona needs to be absolutely perfect in those heats to keep the gap small.
And yeah, and the start values don't necessarily mean that they are going to score high. They have to execute these skills that they're doing.
Exactly. Anything can happen on any day. It's anyone's meet. So
absolutely. So if they're going out there with the hardest skills and they're not executing it to the full potential, that lower start value could end up taking the win for that heat. So now we're going into the trio event for the Baylor Bears.
A little bit of sync, a little bit of bent legs, but one thing they're not going to get is a lack of continuity. I'm no official, but You know, you didn't really see any delay in any of those skills. You saw their power continuous all the way through the end.
Yeah, and in skills like this, the Arabian, you could get called on for lack of continuity. The way you come out of that Arabian, so if that athlete is hesitating, you could get deducted for that. But what they just did right there was very, very smooth, very well executed. I think only minor things would be a little bit of a timing and lack of height maybe, but I think it was really good.
Yes.
So now we have the trio coming up for the Iona Gales. And again, for this one, this is a start value of a 9.75 compared to the Bears, which had a start value of a 10.00. Wow, that was beautiful.
Yes. That was good. A little bit of synchronization in the first half, but they got it all together, landed together. It was very clean. They're all very happy about that pass.
And we actually see number 9, Olivia Montalbano. She's actually going to be in one of the solo heats, the aerial tumbling heat. She has actually performed very well on tumbling for the Iona Gales. Last year, the year before, starting as a freshman, she's been one of their biggest tumblers. So we'll be seeing a lot more of her.
And it's amazing to see the athletes grow in this sport from the freshman year through the junior and senior years. I know I did when I was in the sport, how much stronger and confident and just content on the mat I was by the time I got to my junior year. So there's still so much to learn, even when you come in with those high, heavy-weighted skills.
Absolutely, and even as a freshman when I came into this sport, like you're standing around a lot on the side as you're warming up, as you're getting ready to compete. So being nervous, and then as you get into your last few years as a senior, you just end up evolving, and you're just so much more calm. You're having fun with your teammates. You're not freaking out about what's coming up next. So it's great to see, really, for both programs.
All very clean, a little bit of synchronization from the back two to the front two.
Yeah, I mean, the front two are synced with each other. The back two are very synced with each other. But yes, that is what the officials will be looking at. And you do notice we have number 9, Peyton Washington, a junior for the Bears. We will be actually seeing her in the open tumbling heat. So she is another big tumbler for the Bears. And you'll be seeing her throughout the rest of the event for team event and a lot of the prior events that we did, a lot of the heats she was in. So I think she's a big player for the Bears. So now the Gales are getting ready for their quad, and this is going to wrap up the synchronization for the tumbling. After this, we're going on to solo heats.
Next
So we saw a little lack of synchronization there, and we also saw, if you noticed, coming out of those skills, you have to have that controlled, designated step. So you don't get counted, you don't get deducted for that controlled step coming out of these 1.5s, but if you take more than one step, that is a deduction.
Correct. So you do get to take one step forward or backwards in a twisting skill. If the skill doesn't twist, that very last skill, you actually have to stick that landing. But one controlled step, emphasis on that step. So the officials are looking for, did you take that step because you were going to fly forward without it, or did you take it and it was controlled? They want to see you land both feet on the floor and then just controlled step forward, kind of light on the feet. So
yeah, really controlling that momentum. And it's great to see, again, we're not on a spring floor. This is a dead mat. So the fact that these athletes are flying out of these skills, having way too much power is very impressive.
And that's to note to the strength programs as well across our sport. The way these athletes have to train and lift is not like your typical cheerleader, gymnast. It is, they have to learn to generate power
Hardcore lift
on their own. So you see these young women are strong.
Yeah, they do a lot of things in the weight room. You'll see like all these verticals, jumps, the way they lift. So it's very impressive to see how that kind of coordinates with when they compete and do these skills. So that was actually Emily Bott, and we actually saw her in the duo heat as well. She's another strong tumbler for the Baylor Bears.
Yeah, she has a competitive cheerleading background, and so does Peyton Washington. So when you're looking at these athletes, all of them come from different backgrounds, and they're all doing the same things. They're all here learning the same skills and learning to tumble on the hard floor.
Yeah, absolutely. The adjustment coming from a spring floor to a dead mat is not easy.
No.
You really have to like focus and train on all of those little movements and all those little pieces in order to execute it at a very high level.
Next, with start value of 10.0 from Iona, number 9, Olivia Montalano.
And that was Olivia Montalano with a beautiful aerial pass. You really see the squeeze and the execution on that. And that is not an easy pass to do. She did like, what, 6, 7 elements in that. So
I know.
she looks very, very happy with that.
Yes.
Again, another big tumbler for Iona. So now we'll be going into the 6-element heat. So in this tumbling round, you'll be seeing they only perform 6 elements from beginning to end.
So you'll see the athletes warming up acros and pyramids and things on the sideline. So they're getting ready for team event, because the only real time you get to warm up for team event is in the very beginning in those warm-ups, and you walk through it for the officials. And then just in between the tumbling heats on the sidelines. You don't ever really see a full team warm up together like you usually might in practice.
Definitely. You'll start noticing, too, as they're warming up and getting ready. They do everything element by element, taking it very slow as they're getting ready to go into the team element, so they're not getting tired by the end of the tumbling rounds.
That's that controlled step forward we want to see. She landed that skill, took that step, and then came right back together. I would say there was maybe a little bit of a stall coming out of the whip into the Arabian.
I
Not
would
sure what the
agree.
officials would do with that, but
I would say I was really looking at those arms. When you're coming out of that whip going into that Arabian, you're really looking at those arms popping up to the Arabian. So if they're bent, the officials could call that a lack of height going into it, because if they're extended and you could get more height on that, that's something they're looking for.
Yep, absolutely.
Again, it's really fun to look at the side of the mats as they're warming up. For their team event, you have so many different skills going on just those 2 panels.
Yes.
Seeing somebody tumble while there's a toss going up, while there's an acro warming up. So there's a lot going on.
It's not really a sport for someone who gets overstimulated quickly.
That's for sure. Beautiful whip Arabian pass from All-American Ty Epton.
Yes, I would say we probably saw a little bit of under rotation in that 4.5, but she made it happen. She found her way to her feet to stick that landing and take that controlled step.
Absolutely. And also another thing to look at is when you're coming out of this Arabian skill, because we just saw the Bears do it and now the Gales as well. And you really want to look at, as they're coming out of it, are they hitting that back and front foot? Are they continuing the continuity coming out of these skills? Because that is what the officials are looking for. And that is something they can deduct for if there's a lack in continuity, a lack in height. So again, I think overall that was very, very good. And Iona's getting ready to finish up the tumbling as well as the Bears. And then we're going into team events shortly. And another thing too, Iona being only a 3-year program team and only being 3 points behind them coming out of the toss event is, I would say, very impressive.
Absolutely.
You'll see a lot of other programs with a bigger differentiator by this point.
I mean, that was pretty good.
I don't think I saw anything wrong with that.
I know.
The height, I think, in those skills when she did the 1.5 of the punch round, like I could have fully walked underneath of that.
Yes, absolutely. And also we have to think about, at this point in the meet, after the team event, essentially, one athlete can compete a maximum of 13 times in one meet. So this is much different from gymnastics. You only get 4 events, and that's if you compete in all of them. In cheerleading, you only get 1 routine. You can touch that mat 13 times based on those cross-competing, stipulations. So think of an athlete that's even close to that. Ties at 10, I believe. So
the endurance and stability, like everything that goes into being able to constantly go out onto the mat, it is not that much of a slow-paced event.
The mindset from skill to skill, event to event. They're also
exactly. If you mess something up, if something goes wrong in one heat, one skill, one event, you have to shake that off going into the rest of the meet.
And you mentioned Portia's been a strong tumbler for Iona for a few years now. Nice.
Beautiful. I think the only thing I would say is if those whips are the same height as that 1.5.
Yeah.
I think
Sometimes
that's
they catch
something.
that too.
Yeah, that's something the officials look for. But I think that was a beautiful, difficult pass coming from the Gales.
Is that our last heat of tumbling? It was. We're going into team event. So let's talk about team event a little bit while we wait for these scores. You have a maximum of 24 athletes on the floor, and I believe both of these teams will have that 24. You have to have 30 acro elements that you compete. And you have to have one section where 4 groups are performing 3 or more skills synchronized together. You have to have 5 tosses. 3 of them have to be synchronized. You have to have 4 pyramids, and 2 of them have to be synchronized.
And a fun fact too about team event is you actually cannot be tumbling while there's acro or building skills going on.
Yeah, you also leave a little dance at the end. You can't tumble while you dance, but you can do acro, pyramid, or toss while you dance. And speaking of tumbling, you have to have 21 running tumbling passes. 12 of those have to be synchronized. The same goes for standing tumbling. You have 21 standing tumbling passes. 12 of those have to be synchronized. So think about it. If I have 24 athletes on the mat, all of this has to happen in under 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Absolutely, and it happens so fast. Like,
yes.
you really can't blink during the team event.
So
There is
fast.
so many things going on, whether there's tumbling coming from the right, left side, and then you have building skills going up. You have tosses going on after that. So you really have to be locked in, and honestly, it's just such a fun way to close out a meet.
Correct.
And the shooter lead, Baylor 9.5, Iona 8.55. And the quad heat, Baylor 9.35, Iona 7.45. In the aerial heat, Baylor 9.85, Iona 9.55. In the sixth element heat, Baylor 9.8, Iona 9.8, and in the open heat, Baylor 10.0, Iona 9.25. Our red totals, I'm going to the total event. Baylor 58.0, Iona 54.775, which brings our eight totals to Baylor 184.6.
Okay, we have some scores for the tumbling event quickly for you. For Heat 1, Baylor 9.5, Iona 9.6. Heat 2, Baylor 9.5, Iona 8.55. Heat 3, Baylor 9.35, Iona 7.45. Heat 4, Baylor 9.85, Iona 9.55. Heat 5, Baylor 9.8, Iona 9.8. And Heat 6, 10.0 for Baylor, 9.825 for Iona. That brings our running totals, 184.6 for Baylor, 175.025 for Iona, headed into the team event, our very last event.
So you can see beautiful height in those acro elements. Again, really looking for that control of those bases.
And also, a lot of meets come down to team event. The spread is not very big here in the scores card in this last event.
Wow.
So if any team has any falls, it's anyone's game.
That is really impressive, having 4 of those go into splits. Again, that is a lot with the top and the base with trust, stability, and control. And then more standing pullback tucks. Again, those are 10.0 passes. And we also want to make sure, doing all of these hard tumbling skills, we have to make sure we're staying on the mat. And the fact that they're doing that is very impressive.
I think we had one off the mat over here on the left side.
Sync on that was great. Now we have 4 back bend pyramids. Again, to do this in a team routine, it takes a lot of strength and stability. And again, you just see a lot of tumbling. As soon as these buildings come down, you see tumbling going right away. little movement on that catch. And then, of course, we have to end the team event with a fun dance.
Nice. That was a pretty good routine. I think we saw one off the mat in tumbling. I didn't see any falls over here. We saw a little bobble in the acros in the opening.
I would say a little synchronization in a lot of the tumbling skills that we did see executed in that. But again, team event is not an easy event to do. There is so many of you on that mat. There's 24 of you on that mat. And you have to fit going with other athletes. You have to fit that on just a few panels. So it's very impressive to see all the tumbling going on. As soon as they land the tumbling, they have tosses, pyramids, acros. So definitely a very impacted routine.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you got to think about the kind of athletes you want to have in team event are going to be those versatile athletes, because you need people who can top and base and tumble and do all those things so that you can get all of it done with a less amount of people.
Absolutely. And also another fun thing to even watch tonight is the team events are both completely different from both programs, from both teams. So you're actually looking at different elements, different skills, completely different music going on. So it's definitely fun to watch, I would say. This is one of my favorite events, especially because you're with your team on the mat. It's not just a few individual student athletes that you're going with. You're with your full team. So you have to make sure during these practices that you're having, these 3-hour practices, that after you're running all of these elements, after you're practicing pyramids, you have to go out there with all of your kids and you have to practice your team event for these meets.
Yeah, the team event is an entire beast in itself, separate from everything else. And ideally, you want the team event to be the funnest part of the meet. And almost that point, that's just like an afterthought. You're just tired. You're just trying to get through all the skills as clean as possible. But the other things have a little bit more pressure under them because you're the only person out there doing them.
And again, there's 24 athletes on this mat right now when you go into team events. So not only are you tumbling or stunting with a few other girls on your team, but now you have to get the whole team pumped up, ready to go for the team event. And for Iona going on right now, you actually see quite a few freshmen competing in the team event.
And I don't think we saw a lot of freshmen in their first meet, so I think they're ready to get on the mat.
Which is awesome. Again, the training that goes into a lot of these skills, you have to make sure we're training them the proper way so you're not going out and getting injured or hurt during these meets. So a lot of the time, coaches don't really play their freshmen in the beginning half.
Correct.
So we did see a little bit of a touchdown in the back corner. But again, we still have a whole team routine to complete. That is going to be a little bit of a deduction. Beautiful landings in those. In a lot of these standing passes, what you're really looking for are those controlled landings. For
So if you watch Ty Upton here, number 12, I noticed this last meet, she starts to take her brace off slowly for the next few heats, or next few sections, until it comes off, I believe, for tosses or something, and then she puts it back on to tumble.
Beautiful tumbling going on. Again, it is really difficult to compete the hardest passes you throw in a team routine. A lot of the time, you will see it watered down, and you will compete it during the tumbling events. A good fight with number 6, Teresa Jennings. So again, these athletes that are tumbling together, we're really looking for that synchronization. A little bit of a bobble in that catch. Beautiful kick double baskets to end your routine. Again, it's always fun to see what they do for the dance because you could really do
And
anything.
just for any viewers out there, you don't get scored on the dance. You have a score for having a dance. I believe it's 10 points, but you do not actually get officiated on the dance. So you get to have fun with it. They get to really show kind of their personalities on the mat, and choose the music that they choose, which is always just really fun at the end, especially when you're happy and proud of the routine that you put out there, to just be able to vibe out in that last
Absolutely.
that last
And
part.
like, even for me as an athlete, like once we hit that dance, I was like, oh my God, we're done. We are done. Time to celebrate.
We had a few, I'd say, did we only have one tumbling fall there and then a few bobbles?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of synchronization. We did have a tumbling bust. We did have a catch error in that last basket or in the first basket. But overall, I think that was a really strong routine. You saw tumbling going on everywhere, just like we did for the Bears. We saw a lot of acros, a lot of pyramids. They really took advantage of those tosses. So I would say that was a very strong heat for them, a very strong event. There will be a few deductions, but overall, I think that was great for the Iona Gales.
Yep.
And again, right now we're looking at Iona with a 178.025 and the Bears with a 184.6. So after we get our scores for the team event, we'll be able to really see what those scores look like.
Yes.
And again, keeping up with Baylor all this time during a meet is very, very impressive. For a 3-year program, a lot of programs that have been around for so long, you don't really see the consistency and being able to keep up with them because of all the unique skills that they're going out there very well executed. So now you'll start seeing all of these athletes untaping, taking all the tape off, all their braces off, getting ready for the team event scores.
And the team event is the one event that you can't inquire about your deduction. So you can actually inquire about for 5 different heats in the meet. So you can submit it online and get your deductions and kind of see what you need to work on for those 5 heats that you think you need it. You will always get your event violations in every heat. That's just given to you at the end of the meet. But team event, you don't get to inquire about deductions, but you will get a form that tells you what your violations were, which could include maybe performing something that you didn't declare correctly or the other way around. maybe something fell that was part of a synchronization, so then you didn't meet those synchronization requirements. There's different things that it could be, but you'll always get those. But yeah, team event, you just have to get the score and accept it.
And for the coaches too, for the athletes, the coaches, getting the inquiries about what they really noticed, what they took off for, that goes big because again, the season's not over. They still have the national championship coming up in April, so they actually have to work all of these events, take all of these deductions, the corrections, get back to practice and really focus on executing it even better for the next few meets.
Right, and Iona goes to Oregon this weekend, so that's Jackie's alma mater. Also my alma mater. Jackie was a little older than me. She left Oregon right when I was coming in, so I was newer through the acro world and coaching world, but not as a teammate.
Yeah, Coach Jackie Eshelman has made quite a name and reputation for herself in this sport. She was one of the founding athletes, and she, created, this is her third program?
Yes.
And she's been doing great with all of them all around. So
Today, here are today's final scores. Hands behind the team event scores and the final scores for today's meet. In the team event for Baylor, they score 96.430. In the team event for Iona, they post 88.020. Baylor's final score here this afternoon, 281.030. Congratulations to the winner of today's meet, Baylor. Please do a vote for the American Youth Competition, and of course,
281.030 for the Baylor Bears, 266.045 for Iona Gales.
Yeah, those team event scores. So we had a 96.430 for Baylor and an 88.020 for Iona. And let's talk about those star values a little bit. Iona's team event started at 106.31, and Baylor's team event started at 109.63. So just about 3 points different there. Very awesome meet, very fun. Two really exciting programs, very strong programs. I'm excited to see Iona the rest of this season as they head to Oregon and then hopefully back to the national championship for the second time as a team.
So absolutely, and really the 281.030 for the Baylor Bears, that's a really high score to get at the end of the meet. So I'm sure they're very proud with what they did today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys for hanging out and watching with us, and we will see you again soon.